Before we dive into our topics, please share your story. What led you to run for public office? When were you first elected? And what were some of the memorable highlights along the way?
Well, what led me to run for office, I wanted to fight for more freedom through less government. So that was what led me to run. I've been elected since 2004, which is now 17 or 18 years. And what are some of the memorable highlights along the way? I think standing up for small businesses when the government tried to bring in new and devastating tax hikes on our entrepreneurs, and more recently, fighting against the inflation tax, which of course is when the government prints money to overspend, but in the process, more dollars chase fewer goods, driving up higher prices, and extracts from the paychecks and the purchasing power of the working class to subsidize big government and big corporations. So those would be some of the highlights that have emerged throughout my journey.
Well, I certainly remember your first election where you worked extraordinarily hard and you beat a defense minister. And that raised a lot of eyebrows in Ontario, and people started to take notice of you right away. They recognized that here's a man who's a hard worker, who doesn't shun from knocking on doors. And I've heard subsequently that every election you knock on a door 4 or 5 times before it's time to vote. And that is an extraordinary amount of energy. And I've heard that you're always well received at the door, and we're well served to have you in Parliament. So thank you so much for that. Pierre, I wanted to ask you, you were the first to warn us about inflation back in 2020. Back then, nobody really was thinking about it. But today, boy, we really understand that inflation is hitting us hard. Gas is more expensive. Housing is more expensive. Electricity is more expensive. Food is more expensive. And today we heard that Art Laffer was saying that the United States economy is being mismanaged because they are living with 7% inflation. I believe our inflation rate is higher than that today. Please tell us, how did you guess? How did you know? And how do we get out of this trouble?
Well, predicting this inflation was rather easy for me because in grade school, I studied math and history. And that's all you needed to know in order to predict the present inflation. Of course, back in grade school, everyone remembers the day when some little kid in the class put up their hands and said, "Teacher, if the king runs out of money, why doesn't he just make more of it?" And the teacher has to explain, well, what happens when the king makes more money is that there's something called inflation, the prices rise. And when our government here in Canada and the American government south of the border started printing money like crazy in spring of 2020, I predicted that we would have inflation just like our school teachers taught us we would. And of course, at the time, all of the experts told us, no. The old rules that say that printing money causes inflation are now gone. The laws of math and history are thrown out the window because we live in a wondrous modern era of that where we can cancel all of the old realities. And I was actually waiting for them to announce the repeal of the law of gravity. We could all just float up into the clouds. But thus far, that has yet to happen. And of course, I kept predicting inflation. Minister Freeland said, no, the bigger risk is deflation. So did our current bank governor and the previous bank governor, Polos, who himself has made one faulty prediction after another throughout this crisis. And I persisted, and lo and behold, it turned out I was right. For the last 9 months, inflation has been above the 2% target.
Unfortunately, you were right. Let's pick it up on the other side of the break on what some of the solutions are, and we will be right back with Canadian Innovators.